Can I do one more? I mean, you guys don't have to stick around. I just don't want to step on anybody's programming if it happens. But the most miserable man on the internet, Greg Kelly, had a go at Cassidy Hutchinson, a huge supporter of the president until he led an erection. Sorry, did I say erection? Hold on one second. No, that's apparently what Greg Kelly is thinking. look at her eyes. It's like he's on a little screen right over here. Stickergate. That's we got to deal with it. Okay, so Kelly, yeah, this is of course he's going to go off about Ashley Babbitt and yada yada. But the title of this is Greg Kelly: People died and they don't give a damn. Greg Kelly rips liberals in the mainstream press for continuing to carry the water for the Biden administration after their disastrous policies led to another tragedy on the border. People died. So the idea is that they should have scrapped the January 6th committee hearing because of a truckload of immigrants instead of having a government that can walk and chew gum at the same time or deal with problems. Also, the fuck was Abbott doing? Why is this not Abbott's fault? Didn't the GOP just pass a secession thing? Sorry, for the record, Texas GOP, when you passed your We Want to Secede paperwork, from now on, we judge you on your own. Everything that happens in your state, we're looking at you like a 17-year-old that wants to move out before their 18th birthday. All right, show me your responsibility. So far, not impressed, but here we go.
We are sick about hearing of January 6th.
Okay. And by we, he means him and Eric.
Okay.
Okay. No, not okay.
Liberals love it, but it's a loser of an issue. They keep lying about it today.
First of all, liberals love it. All the star witnesses worked for Trump.
They thought, hey, they had an all-star witness that was going to change everything. It didn't, but I am sick of it. I'm not going to.
I am sick of it. It is destroying the president's ratings. His poll numbers are taking a shit, and it's loosening his grip on power. He's moved from a 90% win rate on picking people for for seats to 50-50. It's basically a coin toss at this fucking part. I don't like it. It's almost as bad as being on the bus.
I'm going to talk about it right now. We'll have to address it later, but first, once again, thank you, Clarence Thomas, Justice Thomas.
What? Wait, I want to talk about January 6th and how much it's bullshit. We'll talk about it, and I will go through it point by point, break down every aspect of it so I can show you what a farce, what a lie, what a pile of shit it is. But another time, I don't really have I mean, it would require me to, our Fiverr account, I forgot the password, and we'd need a graphic. And
Thomas, he has had such an amazing impact on this country for the good.
Okay. Such as... like he joined the majority in this instance, and he's writing the most sort of like the closest thing to a Supreme Court brief written by the people on Channel 1 in Russia, that he just basically wants to nuke everything else. Now that we've crossed this line, who gives a shit? Let's just destroy all these other rights too. Like, he's fine with that. But up to this point, he just did whatever Scalia wanted him to do, and now he's just part of a larger pack, so he's getting his freak on. Why? Because they outnumber the liberals on the court 6-3?
And they hate him for that.
No, they hate him for the bizarre bigotry of his rulings and his ideas right now that are shocking, if only because he held them in a bait for as long as they did. And then he wants to go further than even Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett want to. So apparently they're not there to be the lead people on these rollback of women's rights. I guess they're just there to help further his dreams of why he was initially put on years ago. And his wife participated in January 6th. I don't know why you didn't do the tie-in. Greg, I don't know why they didn't.
Especially Hillary Clinton.
Not
only what he stands for, but that he has had such an impact. And she, for all of her ambition, hasn't really contributed all that much.
Well, that's because you're against S-chip. That's because he's also unaware of anything that she did while in office, either as a senator for New York or as the Secretary of State.
And it's getting personal. Clearly, she wants to be president. She's still running. But this was totally uncalled for and
it was totally uncalled. Let's see.
Possibly a little racist.
All right, possibly a little racist. Let's hear it.
He's signaling, as he often did. You know, I went to law school with him. Mm-hmm. He's been...
And not only is it a little racist, it's racist next to a person of color right across from her. Or is it, I'm sorry, Greg, what's your standard? Is it racist to just sit near someone of color and not leave? I'm so confused.
A person of grievance for as long as I've known him. Resentment, grievance, anger.
Some might say those are racist tropes because Hillary Clinton does not know Justice Thomas well. I mean,
she went to school with him, fucko.
There's no indication of this. Now, they did go to law school at roughly the same time. Bill and Hillary met at Yale Law School, and Justice Thomas was a year behind. Bill Clinton, in his book, actually wrote about Justice Thomas, but Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas was a classmate too, but I never got to know him. Hillary has written several books. We went through all of them. Not a word, no mention of
it wasn't important.
Clarence Thomas. So I wonder how well they knew each other, but they were at Yale at the same time. Hey, how about the whole idea? Yeah, I keep hearing about systemic racism and all the horrible things that have happened to people of color, and the left sanctions it. Maybe, just maybe, Clarence Thomas went through some of that himself?
At Yale, with them. That's so weird. You know what you should do, Greg? Bring on one of the bring on a black Newsmax host with their own show and ask them if they ever bring on a black Newsmax reporter that bring on
and he shares in that resentment, and I don't know, to hold that against him seems very, very unfair. But Hillary...
Well, obviously she's talking about women in particular and sort of the conservative bent on those things. But then she's talking about him as an equal. Greg makes it about race because it helps him, he thinks.
That's how she rolls, and she's trying to exploit the Roe v. Wade decision.
The thing that...
she's trying to exploit it. Translation, she actually gives a shit.
Well, there's so many things about it that are deeply distressing. But women are going to die, Gail. Women will die.
Women will die. Babies will be saved. Women...
Yeah, women, I mean, this is about babies. This isn't women. Women, when are you going to learn that you are broodmares for the state? You are meant to be racked up, dropping eggs like the alien in the Alien sequel.
Women will... How? Where?
How? Where? I want to watch. What? Greg, first of all, botched abortions on themselves. Secondarily, because if they have an ectopic pregnancy and their hospital they're in isn't sure about the law, they're having to argue for 2 days. Women, they have to wait until they go into septic shock to decide whether or not they can take the baby out when it's dead. Because these laws are written so that's what she's talking about, you fucking tool.
How is that actually going to happen?
Yeah. What do you want to buy tickets?
What can we do to prevent it? No discussion of that.
Yes, there is a discussion. Make abortion safe, rare, and legal. But here's another one. Prenatal and postnatal care for poor women. Pass the child tax credit. Free school lunches, so nobody decides to have an abortion because they physically can't afford to feed another mouth at that point in their life. They don't have to worry about that part of it. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were really giving a shit about it.
Just scare tactics.
Just scare tactics. Well, it's not going to scare you, Greg. I mean, you got nothing to worry about.
Women are dying right now. Women and men.
Prenatal care is socialism, so is military, but don't tell conservatives that. No, it isn't. Prenatal care would not be socialism. Neither is the military. Kings have militaries. They pay salaries. They take taxes from the people. That's not socialism. Just isn't.
At the border. Did you see this? 50 people in that
In Texas?
a truck?
In Texas?
Combination of heat exhaustion and suffocation. Migrants led into this country
through a highway gate that would not have changed if there was an entire wall. And during Abbott's Operation Lone Star, where they were pulling over truck after truck, they were looking at almost every truck that went through.
Because the border has essentially collapsed.
No, it hasn't. Because if it had collapsed, why the fuck would these people have to stay in a truck? Why the fuck would they not just hop out and run and go, hi, I made it. You got to give me citizenship. I'm free. All the stuff. Open border. They said it's an open border. I get to live here. None of that shit is true, or these people wouldn't have died.
We all know that.
No, you don't. I don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. This is one of the weirdest pushes where they're trying to make this into something that helps them somehow, when ultimately, if these people could run across the border and the border was wide open and they didn't need any help doing it, they wouldn't have had to hide in a fucking truck. They drove through a checkpoint at the border in the back of a fucking big rig.
What a horrible tragedy.
Yes, it is. What the fuck does this have to do with your sales point?
Tragedy unfolding in San Antonio after dozens of migrants found dead in an 18-wheeler in a suspected case of human smuggling.
A suspected case of human smuggling, for fuck's sake.
The migrants were found in a rural road on the southwest side of San Antonio. They were packed in the big rig in the summer heat, some of them children.
Yeah. Greg, by the way, you're the dude always telling us that the people coming across the border are from 112 different countries. They're all terrorists. They work for cartels. It's MS-13. Don't give me any of that shit. Don't start feeling bad for these kids all of a sudden. Don't you do it, Greg. Don't you start pretending you give a rat's ass.
And there's not much sympathy.
What? Not much sympathy? What the fuck are you talking about? You mean around the office? You mean in San Antonio?
There's not much discussion.
What part? You think the cops aren't looking for the driver and the people who arranged it? They're trying to save the ones who were injured, who survived.
We hear all about these theoretical inconveniences that will happen, but
theoretical inconveniences? The fuck are you talking about? Again, these people did not walk through a gap in Trump's unfinished wall.
There's not much concern. What did the White House say about this?
We're focused on them, on the facts, and holding the human strugglers who endangered vulnerable individuals for profits accountable. And we're focused on continuing our historic actions to disrupt dangerous smuggling networks, including through a new anti-smuggling campaign that just in the first 2 months resulted in over 1,800 arrests.
Arguably, the Biden administration's focus on anti-human smuggling is one of the reasons why they're trying different things to get around it, because there's a desire for people to get into the country. There's a desire for that kind of labor. So as you tourniquet the normal ways that they would get in and you solve these problems, people find other ways to do it. And one of the ways that's going to happen in situations like this, and this is the first time I've heard of this in a big rig, but we've heard of other vehicles where people were effectively, dying of heat stroke and the like, over the years as they try to traverse rough territory and the like. This is what happens.
But the fact of the matter is the border is closed, which is in part why you see people trying to make this dangerous journey. Using
minimal comment of
minimal comment. See, they're following the legal aspect of this. They're trying to work on human smuggling in particular, and they've done these things to disrupt it. They're continuing to work on this stuff, and the border is closed, which is why people are trying these even more desperate measures. They wouldn't need to take these desperate measures if the border was as open as you said it was.
Nothing. Just pointing to their initiatives. The border is closed.
Yeah, by the way, she didn't say it's nothing. You started the conversation at some point. Like, that quote is not, we didn't hear the question before, so you obviously sliced off some at the top. And first of all, I don't even know why I'm arguing this, because this asshole does not give a fuck.
Are you kidding me? They're sweeping this under the rug.
They're not sweeping it under the rug. What are you talking about? They didn't participate in it. Abbott's sweeping it under the rug. What are you talking about?
DHS, Department of Homeland Security, ICE had no official statement. Nothing.
What are they supposed to say? They found it. And by the way, no public statement. They all did. Hold on. Let's see. Let's see what we got so far. Hold on, I'm shrinking something down. I'm glad we're talking about this, but this isn't going to be one of the funnier ones, I'm guessing. Driver of San Antonio migrant truck allegedly tried to disguise himself as the victim. The latest. The alleged driver of a tractor trailer discovered in San Antonio, Texas, with dead and dying migrants tried to blend in with the victims when authorities arrived, Mexican immigration officials said Wednesday. The death toll from the truck discovered in a remote part of the city on Monday night also continued to rise, with 53 of the 67 people discovered inside now dead. Authorities announced it is believed to be the deadliest people smuggling tragedy in recent U.S. history. There are at least 9 survivors hospitalized. One teenage boy remains in critical condition at University Hospital in San Antonio. Mexican officials said most of those identified so far are Mexican nationals, though Hondurans, Guatemalans, and Salvadorans are also among the dead. New details also emerged about the 2 other suspects who were arrested following the discovery of the truck. They are being held on federal weapons possession charges, but have not been charged in relation to the migrant deaths. On Wednesday, that's because they're effectively seeing when they died and all that kind of stuff to see how many of them they're going to charge them for. It's just a matter of time. Wednesday, Abbott announced that he would increase the number of checkpoints around the border in an effort to catch people smugglers. Jesus Christ, nobody's sneaking across the fucking border in a big rig. The people found alive at the scene were hot to the touch. San Antonio Fire Chief Hood said Monday night they were suffering from heat stroke, heat exhaustion, no signs of water in the vehicle. It was a refrigerator tractor trailer, but there was no visibly working AC on that rig. He added that the survivors were too weak to help themselves out of the semi-truck, but were conscious. We're not supposed to open up a truck and see stacks of bodies in there. None of us come to work imagining that. Discovery made. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security reported record numbers at the Mexico border. The Customs and Border agents stopping immigrants 239,000 times in May. The tragedy also immediately became a political issue, with Abbott, a Republican who was running for re-election, blaming Biden's open border policy. Again, if it was open, why did they need to sneak? Which used the Title 42 code, what we know so far. Worker isolated stretch of road. San Antonio discovered the trailer after hearing a cry for help on Monday night. Opened the trailer, found the bodies inside. Jesus, that poor dude. Let's see. 3 people. 3 people were detained as part of the investigation. HSI, the investigative arms of DHS, told Time the suspects were believed to be part of a smuggling conspiracy. That would be your, for the record, that would be your official public statement when asked. I guess they didn't do a presser that they could film. I guess you had to do some work.
Nothing on their Twitter page. They just want to, not acknowledge it because, let's face it.
Because it proves that it's hard to get across the border, that they're catching lots of people and they're getting increasingly desperate trying to get through, and it cuts against your fucking narrative.
Joe Biden, this is on him. He pleaded with migrants to come to the border. Do you remember?
What I would do as president is several more things, because things have changed. I would, in fact, make sure that we immediately surge to the border. All those people are seeking asylum. They deserve to be heard. That's who we are. We're a nation that says if you want to flee and you're fleeing oppression, you should come.
Well, that was a really
yeah, keep playing it, fucko.
bad idea.
By the way, there were stacks of people in Mexico and at the border that were not being serviced. They were just sweltering in the heat down there. That was acutely dealing with that issue, which Trump didn't want to do.
Bad idea.
Again, yeah, I don't know why this is Biden's fault, by the way. They didn't open the border when he came through. They just wanted a legal process to deal with people.
And the results?
The results are what? Greg Abbott is a fucking moron?
People have been predicting this for a long time, all right?
No, they haven't.
Right? It's happened before.
No, they haven't.
But nothing like this, certainly in recent years.
Right. It's interesting. You didn't have to sneak through like this in recent years. Now you do.
Now, Joe Biden does get worked up sometimes. He didn't speak about this. KJP, his press secretary, barely spoke about it. Sometimes he does get passionate. When does that happen?
It's outrageous. There will be an investigation underway now, and there will be consequences.
Yeah. Remember that? Those guys on the horse, the Border Patrol guys, nobody died. It was just a photo that some people didn't like. For them...
No, it wasn't. There's video with this fucko, and they were hitting people with their reins. There was a question about whether it was whips or not, but they were using their reins to whip someone. It's a distinction without a difference, you fucking moron. And by the way, Greg is chubbing right now.
They tried to say this evokes another era or whatever. I saw guys doing their jobs. Nobody was whipped. Remember how bent out of shape they got over that?
Well, yeah.
Remember how bent out of shape they got over the so-called kids in cages?
Uh-huh. You mean the ones that got permanently separated and the Trump administration had no plan to get them back together?
The Trump administration and Republicans separated children from their parents at the border, threw kids in cages, and made families sleep under aluminum foil.
We saw kids in cages, sleeping on the floor.
Very easily arguable that it's morally wrong. Kids in cages, not okay.
Yeah, again, separated from their parents. This is not about people in a processing facility where there are pens and they're moving people through as people move into another place and they're either met with a sponsor or returned immediately over the course of a day and a half, especially when it jams up. This was separating them out. The parents, God knows what the fuck happened to them. The kids are staying in a cage all their own, like in groups of underage minors, and then they just fucking evaporated. And then they just lost them. They didn't even want to connect them with their parents again. There's a difference.
Kids in cages on the border. We've got people in prisons when they're trying to seek asylum. It's not right. It's beyond politics. It's about right and wrong.
Okay, kids in cages, right? It was snappy, alliteration, but they never pointed out that those cages were made by the Obama administration.
Yeah, but people weren't separated based on that permanently. They would separate you temporarily to make sure that that was your kid. That was part of the issue. And they always got them back together. You notice there's no one suing the U.S. government from the Obama years because they lost their child. They were separated from their child and the child just fucking evaporated.
But they all went there to the border. AOC bent down and cried. Remember this about the kids in the cages? All fiction. AOC showed us how sad she was about this. Where is AOC now?
I think she's working today.
Where was Hillary Clinton today?
They're basically talking about Roe v. Wade and the like, but there aren't kids in cages right now. They're not separating people like that. And when they do, they separate them to make sure that the adult they're with is, belongs with them, so they aren't being sexually trafficked, for example, by an adult. And then once they can establish that, either through the kid and in interviews or genetics, then they put them back together and that kind of thing. I mean, it's obviously if it's a woman carrying a child she's nursing, that's not a problem. Oh, God. Do you see the tongue lick when he's...
Where is AOC?
There's a picture of her up now. On the monitor.
Where
Watch his
was Hillary
face.
Clinton today?
Ugh. Oh, fuck me.
People died. A horrible death.
Right. In Greg Abbott's Texas. Not in government care. Just, they made it through. And his Operation Lone Star didn't do anything.
In a truck. And they don't give a damn.
Neither do you. What the fuck? Of course they do. They're charging the people involved. They're dealing with smuggling on the other side of the border. They've engaged with the Mexican government to find out who the fucking people were and where they came from. That's how they know. That's why there's a statement from the Mexican government of who was in the truck. They've gone through their names. They've checked. That's why they were like, most of them are Mexican nationals. Some of them are Guatemalan or Honduran. They didn't just look at their fucking nasal cavities and their eye structure and go, I don't know, he kind of looks like my cousin Charlie. Like, get the fuck out of here. They got ID on them, some that do, or they had witnesses that could, the living that could explain who they were with, or they interrogated the dudes that they had with them and said, where are these people from?
How about that? How about that?
How about what? You pretending to give a shit?
And for them, it's all about this Roe v. Wade fight, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. They care so much about women and coat hangers that they just don't give a shit about the plight of migrants the way Greg Kelly does.
Women will die someday. We're sure of it. We're going to make it happen. Sometimes I wonder.
We're going to make it happen. Did that just slip out, Greg, and then you had to cover?
And actually, AOC herself seems to have some pretty dangerous advice.
Forcing women to carry pregnancies against their will kill them. It will kill them.
Well, how do we fix that?
Jesus Christ. Well, let's see, Greg. I think we can start with maybe let's see. Maybe if a woman makes a case against somebody, especially if their father is the police chief in a city, that there should be a better system to deal with it. So that if, God forbid, she became pregnant from that sexual assault, she would have recourse. I just picked this one out of a hat, but she accused a TV anchor of rape and got dragged through the tabloids. For the first time, Maria Di Toro speaks publicly about her 2012 allegations against it's probably not the same guy. Morning show host and son of former police commissioner Ray Kelly. Might actually be the story. When Maria Di Toro walked into a New York Police Department precinct late one night in January 2012, she knew her story was, as she said, complicated. Nearly 4 months earlier, she had told officers one of the best connected young men in New York had raped her. She didn't realize then what making an allegation would mean. 16 days after she was reported it, her picture was on the front page of the New York Post with the headline, Shady Lady. Had Di Toro met up with almost any other man that day in October 2011, she would never have landed on the Post's radar, much less its cover. Spokeswoman for the paper didn't respond to requests for comments for this story, but when she named Greg Kelly, morning show host at the Fox affiliate and son of the police commissioner, details of Di Toro's report almost immediately spilled into local news machine that pitted this unknown woman against a public figure with close ties to both media and law enforcement. In a recent series of interviews with BuzzFeed, Di Toro spoke openly for the first time about the experience. When her case initially went public, she declined reporters' offers to comment. She asked her family and friends, many barraged by calls and unexpected visits from reporters, to also refrain. The tabloids eventually moved on, but Di Toro didn't know how. She didn't know how, she said. After 2 gnawing years of following other high-profile rape cases and a city government regime change, she began considering what it would mean to tell her story publicly. She said she feels stronger today with the kind of durability she didn't have when the media beckoned before. Then she was playing defense, like when she begged the photographer who took her modeling headshots not to sell them after he called her to say the Post had made an offer. He sold them. I was really scared into submission. I felt that if I had to say anything to the press because I had already seen my own words in the police report twisted, I thought for sure if I gave them any interview on the phone, it was going to happen the same way. Di Toro, who met with the BuzzFeed in the living room of her small New York City apartment, knew why her story was so complicated. Fodder for people who believe women cry rape as an excuse for drunken mistakes. She knew she was complicated, one with a longtime boyfriend who had consensual sexually charged conversations with another man. But whoever she is and whatever she did, Toro's story is still one of the everyday encounters gone terribly wrong and of the brutal consequences for women, for people who level accusations against powerful public figures. And for the first time since the incident, she wanted to tell it. Not to a family member, friend, cop, or counselor, but to the people who may know her as Shady Lady. Kelly requested time off from his show, Fox 5's Good Day New York, and cooperated with the district attorney's investigation. But outside the DA's office, a public conclusion based on leaked information appeared to be forming in his favor. In February 2012, when the DA's sex crime unit chief sent a letter to Kelly's lawyer declaring her office investigation found, quote, no criminal charges were appropriate, the Post was the first to drop its identity protection. 2 days later, a photo of DeToro on a cruise taken from her Facebook was on the front page. Shady Lady, the paper screamed, as the sun cast shadows on her dark features. Ms. DeToro is not a victim of a sex crime, editor Cole Allen later said in an article defending the Post coverage. After being asked to participate in the story and provide a list of DeToro's allegations by BuzzFeed, Kelly's lawyer, Andrew Lankler, offered a one-sentence statement. Nearly 2.5 years ago, the allegations against Mr. Kelly were thoroughly investigated by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, and the District Attorney's Office properly exonerated Mr. Kelly. Rape Beauty could not remember sex with Kelly. And there he is. There's the dude. That's him. So when it comes to those kind of stories and the idea that someone might have to carry someone's non-consensual child conceived through non-consensual means to term, you can see why dude's a little sensitive, I think.
Why do we talk about not getting pregnant in the first place? Yeah.
Yeah, why don't we talk about not being around dudes who will dope you and take advantage of you? In theory, allegedly.
Yeah. I think.
Chicks, ladies, why don't you? Here's a good idea. The Greg Kelly method: just put an aspirin between your knees and hold it there the whole. My dad's the police commissioner. What the fuck you gonna do?
We should. Is that corny? Is that silly? What about these pregnancy centers? Yes, the ones that have been firebombed. You want to just pretend that they're just not cool? You know,
they're not cool. They've been, yes. The trick centers, the ones that are basically pretending to be, abortion care providers.
Here's the perverse advice that she came up with.
Why perverted? Why do you look at her and say perverted? What's happening, Greg?
If you take an abortion pill and it doesn't go right, go to the hospital. If a person needs to go to the hospital, they can say they are having a miscarriage. There's no way for medical experts to tell the difference.
Yeah, because she's worried that girls who do that and are experiencing medical problems will stay home and fucking die. Anybody who takes one of these pills and then has complications, if they then find themselves in trouble, some of them might go, I can't go to the hospital. If they find out what I did, I'll die. And she's going, look, save your life. Go get help. You don't have to confess to a crime because you're dying.
She's gaming on beating the system.
She's gaming on.
How about actually helping people?
She is. Some people might take the medication because they can't get it through legal and easily processed means. They might get it secondhand or get the advice on how to use it and when from somebody else. And if they don't do it properly, they could experience issues instead of having a real doctor talk them through the whole process safely. And when they have those complications, they may fear, especially if they are underage, that they might go to jail or be in trouble or get tried for murder in one of these fucking states. So they stay home and they die. And what she's saying is, go to the hospital. You don't have to say what's happening to you. They just need to treat what's wrong with you. Just go.
That's not what she's about. That's not what she knows. I mean, nothing against bartenders, but, just before she got to Congress, she was a bartender.
And you're a like morning show host that dumped out onto Newsmax, fucko. I have the same digital reach you do, and you're in a multi-million-dollar suite. The building that is like Newsmax is a multi-million-dollar endeavor. And I have essentially the same production quality that they have. She ran for office by going door to door. She won in the district next door. She won 2 seats at the same fucking time because the district overlapped and she was presenting herself as a candidate. And in some cases, she was knocking on doors that were technically in the next district, and she fucking won.
And that's a pretty casual environment. And she's...
Oh, right. Yeah. You know, drinks are going, you're mixing drinks. You're probably every third one's for you. And then the next thing you know, your feet are up on the bar and you're knocked up again. And you know, what the fuck? Where does he think she works? Jesus Christ. First of all, it looks like a diner. It doesn't look like some like crazy nightclub.
He's bringing that casual approach to life.
That casual approach, you know, that laissez-faire, the kids today with their loose sex and their dungarees.
To Congress. And it's, well, she's not providing much. Not much at all.
Oh, God, what a fucking creep. You know, I know what you're thinking. He seems fine. He doesn't seem miserable or bloated or angry or, you're like, he seems like the kind of guy that has dozens of friends. What could possibly go wrong? I literally, again, I wish that one was funnier, but I think it needed to be dealt with anyways. It was in the queue, and I just felt like we had to like share that together. I apologize, but I will say that Greg Kelly doing everything within his power to hang on to the mantle of the most miserable man on the internet. Just a bitter, friendless, angry, sad, lonely fuck. Like, not somebody who's so incels don't even, he's like the self-cucking incel king. And it just miserable. Right, AOC, get off my lawn. Jesus. Yeah, I feel dirty a little bit after that one, too. When do we get to name? No violence. Quit it. But anyways, I appreciate you guys. I want to remind you in the process of that in our Marcus Aurelius kind of moments, when we go through one of these clips that they posted about one of these things, especially when it contains multiple serious things handled in a completely inserious way. Because I would like to remind you that fuckhead dunked on 3 things: at Roe v. Wade going down, a truck full of dead migrants, and then the fact that AOC was working as a bartender, ran for office, and got the job. And conflated all those things poorly, and obviously it was just word salad. But that's the best that asshole can do. It's the one upside to this. He wins the 5 eggs, I think, personally. If we even have that option currently. If I can find, because I don't, let's see. Have a, nope, it's on the other one, isn't it? Yeah. Well, I have to get 5 eggs back up and running. It's a 3-hour show, I know. I gotta be on Liberal Dan's in a half an hour. But I like to remind you that yes, this guy exists. Yes, Newsmax exists. Yes, they've got funding and force, and they do. Occasionally they'll post something that will draw attention somehow, or whatever. But quite frankly, they serve 2 awesome purposes. One, they water down the viewership of right-wing media. They don't add anything to the conversation any more than OAN or RSBN or Fox even, and they dampen the entire impact of that nonsense. And all of their stuff, all their segments or whatever, are so like Franken worded together where they just don't, they have no impact, no meaning. There's no moment of insight. There's not even that kind of like, oh yeah, he's mad like I'm mad shit. It doesn't even chart on that level. You know what I mean? Because that's you could argue that you know, Rusty Trombone and Jimmy Dork, they like have an emotional resonance with some of the assholes that watch them, right? And so they serve a purpose for that. And so they can do a certain amount of damage through that resonance because they can motivate those people to act out in those ways and be shitty. That's not at all what happens on Newsmax. I swear to, like, Newsmax is a waste of fucking time. Like it is, and they know it. That's one of the most amazing things. They just hired Greta Van Susteren and punted Greg Kelly to 10 p.m. It's beautiful.